Hey guys, DataVids here. I think you're doing documentation all wrong. Or you probably are. Check this out and tell me what you think.
I'm going to show you how to document this class so that the IntelliSense pops up whenever you use the class. It's going to be so helpful for every developer that comes along that needs to use this class, okay? So go to your methods, hit the 3 forward slashes. You don't even have to press enter. It's going to drop this out just like this. A place to put the summary, a place to put the return. You'll notice it didn't say anything about parameters because we don't have a parameter. So go ahead and delete that. Go ahead and put in a parameter, int my number, for example. Now if I do 3 forward slashes right above this method, 1, 2, 3, bang, look what it did. Parameter name my number is in the list. So in here I could say what that is. This is the number that you were supplying. Yeah. Okay. What does it return? Always returns 50. What does it do? This is a useless method for demonstration. All right, now check this out, guys. Come back to my program.cs. I'm going to instantiate that class. My helper class, or just helper class, equal to new helper class. Now let's call that method, or pretend like we're going to call that method. Look, right away, before I even type it, the IntelliSense says, this is a useless method for demonstration. Okay, whatever. But you can see the IntelliSense just showed up right there. So easy, right? Now I'm going to drop out some brackets, and you can see the first parameter is my number. Check it out, my number in bold. And I can't zoom in on this part, guys, I know. But if you can look real small, get out your magnifying glass. It says, this is the number that you are supplying, ... That's exactly what I typed in that IntelliSense back over here, right here. All right, so let's put in something here. If I had multiple parameters, then all I would do is enter the first parameter, hit comma, and the next one would show up. I'll show you that real quick, then we'll go on to the next thing. So let's go ahead and add a second one here. My letters. You could just do this, copy and paste this line. My letters. And if you know a faster way of doing this, just put that in the comments here. I don't at this time. Letters are. Save that. Go back to your program. Now check this out. When you hit comma, it goes to that second parameter. And check this out. I could use the arrow keys on my keyboard to bounce back and forth on opposite sides of that comma. And it makes in bold the one that you're working on and changes the text below. So you can see letters are there. Go left. This is the number you're supplying. All right. Now the same thing applies for properties, believe it or not. So if I just hit the 3 slashes, you only get the summary. Obviously, you don't get parameters and return on a property. But you could just say my prop blah blah blah, and down here we could do don't use this, and then over here in program, if I could do helper class dot and then pick the property. There we go. And check this out. If I hover over my property, it says my prop, and then those crazy letters I put. And I'll just for gigs, I'll put my property 2 and hover over that. And it says don't use this. Now, one thing that trumps documentation is instead of saying don't use this, is to do something that'll show up in the warnings. So, if you put your square brackets here, and you could say obsolete, and then put regular brackets here and say use this other method instead, blah blah blah. Now if you're using property 2 like we are here, it's hovered in green. If you hover over that, it says depreciated. So if I build yes, it built successfully, but if I turn on my warnings, you'll see it showed up here. So, kind of helpful. Can't guarantee they're not going to use it. If you really don't want them to use it, then just delete it and check that into source control. If it's for people that can contact you, well, that's on you. How much time do you want to spend explaining what your code does and how good is your memory? Here's another one in Visual Studio that kind of I guess you could say it grinds my gears as a developer because I don't like wasted lines, and some of you might not care about that. But if I have a comment here that said, you know, my number equal to my number times 2, but it's commented out because it's a requirement that no longer exists. But we think, oh, we might need that requirement again, so I'm just going to comment it out. That way all I have to do is uncomment it to put it back in there. So you guys don't want to do that. Instead, what you want to do is delete the line, commit it to source control, and then you can go and look at the version history, and you'll see that what the line used to be, and that actually gives you a date on when you made that change. So now, if you say, well, hey, remember back in April, I had you take that out, I want you to put it back in, you could look at the commit history, scroll down to April, and see where you removed it, copy and paste it, and put it back in. It keeps it less cluttered, easier to understand, easier to read, better product for all developers involved. You're welcome. Let's move on to something else. Let's talk about README files, a Readme.md file. I won't waste your time with this. I'll just tell you what to do. Go to makeareadme.com. It gives you all the information. Why should I do it? How do I do it? Who's going to read it? Blah, blah, blah. But if you scroll down, there's this tool here. I don't know who made this website, but thank you so much, whoever did, because it gives you all the markup on the left and what it's going to look like on the right. And as you can see, this is data vids. Will show up there. I could just put pound, space, and it changes it to bold, or maybe just 2 pounds, makes it a bigger bold, 1 pound, huge bold, that kind of stuff. Play around with it, and then just copy and paste this stuff out, put it into your project, and thank you again who made that site. Let's go on to the next topic. End user documentation. Documentation for the users who are going to use your program. I just Googled it here, and I'm going to Google image search. What is this telling you? It tells you there's everything out there. Every possibility you could make is being used. There's flowcharts. There's full-blown Word documents. There is books. But I'll tell you what. Speaking from experience, this is all trash. All of it. It's garbage. Don't do any of this stuff, okay? No one is going to read it. They are going to ask you questions. Instead of doing end-user training, create a searchable document that you yourself and help desk folks can refer back to, if you have a help desk. If you don't, I feel sorry for you. And on top of that, make a video. People love to watch videos. I mean, you love to watch videos or you wouldn't be here still, because this is not exactly the most exciting topic. But people like to watch videos and they like to ask questions. So this document, if it's searchable, at least you'll get some value out of it, because you can search for things that you've forgotten, and the videos can pass on as training if they need to sign off on it. But don't waste your time building an end-user guide that's collaborative with flowcharts, because, to be honest, nobody wants to see that, and they're not going to read it. Software specifications requirement, or an SRS, or it might just be called the documentation from the business analyst, or it may have several other names in your company. You may receive one before you begin development and design, or design and development. Now, the question to you is, do you maintain that document as a developer? Because you're going to get requirements changes while you're building the program. What you see on the screen here is just Wikipedia, guys. You can look this up if you wanted to click on some of these links. But since I didn't write this, and thank you to whoever wrote it, fantastic article. But you as a developer, are you going to make additions to this document when the requirements change? Because they will change. And my opinion, and I believe that you should not make changes. Because here's the thing. You're going to be constantly updating this thing. You're going to be fixing bugs, at least new requirements, new requests, and it's going to be a nightmare with all the applications you build in your career to maintain SRS documents. And the one that you got may have been out of date before you even got it, so now you're doing their job. So do everything you can to fight the requirement to maintain an SRS document, but thank them for giving it to you, because it does make your job easier to get started. Technical documentation that you write for other developers. Don't stop doing this. This is super important in complex applications that can't be described in other ways. However, if you looking at this doesn't make a lot of sense to you and you wrote it, then throw it in the trash can and don't ever bring it up again. Okay? Let me put this to you another way. If your application can be described by your method names and short comments above the method, and it fully makes sense to other developers or the ones that you've shown it to, then creating this additional documentation is a waste of your time. However, if it's very complex and hard to understand for yourself, then without this document, there's no chance in heck that they're going to be able to understand it, so keep doing it. and make sure you place this document in the same place that you place your code, or reference a URL, etc. to it, file path to it from your code, so they can always be found and updated. It's also not useful if it's not up to date, so if it's a huge 20-page document, once again, probably not worth doing.